Hello, how's it going? So, I recently had a Tao class, and I'd like to share some of it with you. In this class, we constantly talk about cultivating the self and how we cannot cultivate for someone else. We have to do the work ourselves. And many spiritual traditions and religions and people in general will tell you that. You can't do the work for someone. I tell my child that, with her schoolwork, that I can't do her work for her, even though it would probably make life simpler, but it won't help anyone learn. We have to have our own experience. Having our own experience is like, you know, are we living life as this is happening to us, or are we living life as we realize that we are creating all these experiences by the way our mind is sending out frequency? That's a little bit harder to understand. But when you start seeing it in your life and viewing your life that way, things change. So, we learned about the 5 constants in this class. Number 1 is benevolence, which has the quality of wood, and compassion and mercy. So, benevolence, so are you able to tell others the truth when they don't see their own truth, or they can't see what it is because they're so wrapped up in what they are at that moment? Not all of this is from the class. I'm just going to talk about each topic from my experience, because that's what we're here to do, share our experiences with others, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. So, benevolence, even if it might upset somebody, but it's the right thing, do you have the courage to say what needs to be said? I can tell you I haven't always. Benevolence, it's well-being, it's kindness. So you don't want to be mean about it, but you want to speak your truth. And also, it reminds me of a time I went to the store. My daughter was maybe 4 years old, maybe younger, and she had a coat on. We went to the thrift store to get clothes because she needed a whole bunch of new clothes, and um, they had things for cheaper, and that's where we went. And we had a whole cart full of stuff, and we went to the counter, and she put on this one coat, and she had it on the whole time. And I paid for all the stuff, and I left. And later that evening, she's walking around with the coat, and I realized I didn't pay for that coat that she had on. So I felt guilty, and I thought, well, I could just keep it. It doesn't matter. And then I thought, well, but I stole it, and it does matter. And then I thought, did I do it on purpose? What should I do? And it came to me that my intention wasn't to steal, but it happened. And now I thought, well, how do I correct it? So I went back to the store the next day with my daughter, waited in line with the coat, got to the register, told the lady, hey, I walked out of here. My daughter was wearing this coat and I didn't pay for it. I'd like to pay for it, or what should we do? And she looked at me very surprised. And I was holding up everybody else in line. And she said, that's never happened here. Nobody's ever come back and said that. Let me get my manager. And I got a little nervous. And I'm like, oh boy, did I shoplift? Am I going to jail? Like, what's happening? And the manager came back and said, because you were honest and you did the right thing, you can have the coat for free. And I said, are you sure I can pay for it? And he said, no, you take the coat. And I was like, wow, just doing the right thing with kindness and good intention in your heart. I went over all these scenarios of my daughter wore the coat. Why didn't I see it? Why would I leave without paying for it? What will happen if I go back and tell them the truth? And it turned out doing the right thing paid off, and it doesn't always have to pay off. That's not why we do the right thing. There was a time when I helped someone with something that they lost and then they found. Well, I found it after I stepped back from the scenario and said, let's look at the big picture. And I saw where it was, and then after that they told me something that they hadn't told anyone else, and that I had asked them before, but they didn't want to disclose that information. But after I found the key, they disclosed that information. So, little things, but I didn't do it for that. And I told him that too. I didn't do this for that. I did this because it's the right thing to do in my heart. And when we do more of those things, that's how we grow in consciousness and awareness and love and unity. That unity consciousness, the I am presence, the Dharmakaya, it's all present inside of us. That which cannot be created or destroyed is always here. So, whenever we are too stubborn and we get in our own way, if we keep doing that, we get more stubborn. We build a pattern. When we start looking at our behavior and being like, hey, I'm stubborn. Why am I stubborn? How am I stubborn? And you start breaking it down and you realize what you're doing and you change it, you break that pattern. A lot of that is what you do in meditation. You look at your mind. Hey, why is my mind being a monkey and running in that way and that way? Why is my mind doing this and that? And you look at it and you bring it back to center and you return to that center each time. So the next one is righteousness. So righteousness is usually, morally right, justifiable. It is associated with metal and duties and obligations. The right thing to do. The right thing to do for me in my life right now is make these videos. Even if nobody ever watches them. Even if someone watches them and thinks, that was horrible, why did I even watch that? But it still reached you somehow. And somehow you were meant to hear it. And I was meant to say it. So that's what I'm doing. Even if someone, doesn't agree with me at all. Because I can respect the Bible and everyone who teaches and learns about it. I can respect the sutras and everyone who teaches and learns about it. I can respect Confucianism. Sorry, I started thinking about all the different religions, and there are so many, and there is so much information. And sometimes I've been very overwhelmed with all the information. And other times it just gradually flows. But it depends how we take it in and what we do with that. I was reminded the other day that somebody was talking about how they integrate. And we all integrate differently. But it is all heading toward the same way. The truth, the way, home, spirit, soul, omnipresence, I am, Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it, Christ consciousness. We're all trying to go to the same place, which is our truth, our love, our light, heaven, heaven on earth. So the next one is propriety. Propriety is fire. So it's associated with fire, proper etiquette, courtesy, rituals. Propriety would be, accepted standards and behavior, morals, things like this. Do you respect others? How much do you respect others? It's the golden rule. How you treat people comes back to you. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but it does come back. Remember that. Treat yourself and others with kindness. Loving kindness is the way home. It's equality. So humans can be naturally biased. When someone tells a story, they're telling it from their experience. They're telling it from their judgments. They're telling it from their behavior, their attitudes, their background. All these things are something to consider. But when you tell things from your heart, there is no difference. There is no difference between you and I. There is no difference between you and a saint. There is no difference between you and ascended masters, between you and archangels, between you and avatars, between you and the earth, between you and nature, between you and a spider. We are all that same energy, that same flow. And the next one is wisdom. So wisdom, back to experience. So wisdom is water, awareness, Buddha nature, the true nature. You let go of the human nature. So when you do let go of your human nature, your, desires, like, I have to have a pink shirt right now, or else I'm not happy. My pink shirt has to be a V-cut. It can't just be a regular shirt, or I'm not happy. My pink shirt has to sparkle 5 miles, or I'm not happy. My pink shirt can't be light pink, it has to be dark pink, or I'm not happy. When we put all these conditions, we tend to suffer. It doesn't have to be about a pink shirt. It could be anything. When we let go of me, myself, and I, things change. In AA, they call it ism. I, self, and me. Ism. In the Tao class I'm taking, she mentions me, myself, and I often. Letting go of me, myself, and I. A suggestion would be to view yourself as a third person, to take the I out of it. For a long time in my life, I lived in the I, and we have to use I, because how else do we speak about ourselves when talking to someone else, like I'm doing right now on this video? You have to say I. I understand that, but you don't have to build it up on a pedestal and create all these different feedback loops around that I. You can understand that you have this human nature, but you work on it to release those conditions of the mind that you've created, that you were born into. Think about that. And then there's faith, trust, and sincerity. I've mentioned sincerity before in one of my videos. I'm sure I'll mention it again. It's so important because if you come with a sincere heart, you're able to work through the dynamic flow of this life in a much better balanced way. And you are able to maintain that middle way better, stronger, and a little more stable. But you have to bend, just like the branches do. You have to sway, just like the trees do. You cannot stand rigid because you will crack. There has to be some play and laughter. There has to be some discipline. And the balance of these two is the way. So faith is associated with earth, and it's confidence. Words and deeds are equal. The words and the mind are equal. We do according to what we believe. So if we don't believe any of this that I'm even saying right now, if none of this resonates with you, it means nothing. It won't internalize in you. What we do is what we believe. A great exercise is just writing down, what are my beliefs? Write them down, and then look at each one and say, why do I believe this? Let's say, I believe that all my socks should be yellow. Why do I believe all my socks should be yellow? Because I love yellow. Why do I love yellow? Because it makes me happy. Why does it make me happy? Because it's bright and it reminds me of the sun. Why is it bright and reminds you of the sun? Because I have the privilege of being able to see it with these eyes. Why do you have the privilege of being able to see these with your eyes? Because I was fortunate enough to have eyesight in this life and be able to see it. Why were you fortunate enough? And just keep breaking it down. I mean, obviously I used a silly example, the yellow socks. There is this song by Pink Floyd, The Girl in the Yellow Dress. I saw David Gilmour perform it before. It was a good show. But anyhow, you can do this with anything. And it helps you see where you're coming from, where your mind is originating. Where do your thoughts come from? You can ask yourself that question. Where do my thoughts come from? Do you know where your thoughts come from? That might be a silly question. Some of you might laugh at that and say, of course I know. I I know all my thoughts. I am my thoughts. But maybe you aren't. And that's what I learned in Buddhism is you have to look past the illusion. The illusion that you create, because the reality is there. And it won't come overnight. It takes time, patience, discipline, respect, kindness, wisdom, compassion. And these things, they grow in you and they change you. And they allow you to see the world through eyes of love, which you naturally are, which everyone naturally is. It's easy to say these things. It's harder to do them. But when we do, the benefit will be seen, it will be felt, it will be heard. So trust. It's complete confidence. I didn't always have complete confidence in myself. I wasn't always sure if I could do things. I wasn't always sure if I could speak my truth like I am right now. We don't know until we do those things. And if it failed, it failed. But at least you tried. Everything we learn on this earth, let's say you're a Reiki master, let's say you're a shaman, let's say you're a doctor, let's say you're whatever you are, you're living that in this earth life. But in your true essence, that may not be exactly what you are. But it is what you are experiencing and how your essence is processing and learning and growing on this planet, which is a beautiful thing. If I've said anything to offend anyone or mislead anyone in any way, I ask for forgiveness. I am only trying to speak from my heart and pass on a teaching. So I went over a little bit of the teaching that I was taught, and then I added my own words and experiences to it. A great question to ask is, why are you cultivating? Why even bother? Why go deeper and deeper and deeper? I asked myself this question and I came up with, why not? I came up with to go home, to help myself and others. But you have to help yourself first before you can help others. I didn't always know that. I used to think that I could help others without helping myself first. And I tried. I had a friend, I used to go to his house and take all his beer, but I drank it myself then with my friends. So I was still drinking, but I thought he shouldn't drink because I saw the damage he was doing to himself. But did I see the damage I was doing to myself? Maybe partly, but not enough to not drink the beer. He's no longer with us because things did get the better of him. When people depart, their love remains. Those experiences help us grow. I remember when he passed, I started meditating. It was after a winter of several deaths. And I felt this overwhelming love sitting with the sun, unlike anything I've ever felt before. I was constantly seeking outside of myself, and I didn't realize what could be inside. And what I was seeking was already there. I just didn't know it. I had never experienced such energy and bliss and ecstasy and throbbing vibration in my body. I had no idea what this was. It was so confusing. I didn't think anybody else would understand what that means. I didn't know how to convey that to others. It's difficult to explain such an experience without you having it yourself. But it is the most beautiful thing, and it is real, realer than anything in this life. It is your essence, and it goes deep. I felt I had more air in my lungs. I felt expansiveness and purity, clarity. All that didn't come just overnight. It was just a glimpse. And what I experienced when I kept meditating was receiving more glimpses just like that, more often, longer, over and over, to the point where you couldn't deny it. Even if you told people about it, and they looked at you sideways like, yeah, okay. But it's a spiritual experience, and we are all spiritual. No matter what, even if you don't practice anything, you're still spiritual. You don't have to be labeled. You already are. That's the beauty of it. It's already there, in all ways, at all times. There's nothing you really need to do for it to be there. The practice is just releasing that which isn't real. But we don't see that because we live in this human world, in this human existence. Everybody's hungry, everyone's thirsty, everyone wants to relax, everyone wants to feel loved. We're all seeking love. It's why we get married, it's why we have kids. We all want to be loved. Some of us express that differently than others. And when our love gets very hurt or shattered, some of us label ourselves broken and do things that might not seem very normal or good to others. And maybe they aren't. But it comes from a place of pain. And when you know pain, you are able to feel compassion in great amounts. And we're all in the same condition, the human condition. We all live this. We all do. Even if we all perceive it differently, we are all living it the same. None of us want to suffer. All of us want to be loved. If we only knew the reality of how close the beings of light are at all times, we would never feel lonely again. We would smile. That doesn't mean all your problems go away. It doesn't mean you're going to get rich overnight and everything's great and peachy. No. But it does mean that you are able to have an internal peace that is richer than any form of monetary means in this material existence. And I wish that for everyone on this planet daily. A visualization I do is seeing the violet flame encompass this whole planet for healing, for growth, for unity, forgiveness, love. It's just a simple visualization, but it feels very strong. You can't deny something when every atom, every cell, every molecule, every particle inside and around you is buzzing. You can't deny this. Not when it's happening to you. You think it's happening to you, actually, but it actually is you, and you are it. And so it is.